Good day, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Marcus Ejdersten. I work as Strategic Marketing Director at MacGregor. This is my presentation, So Much Potential to Remove Waste for Smarter Cargo Handling. So before we proceed, just a quick introduction who we are. So we shape the offshore and marine industries with leading engineering and service solutions for cargo and load handling. The company was established in 1937. We have today some kind of equipment on almost every second commercial vessel. Sales 2016 was a little bit south of 800 million euros, and we are about 2,000 people over 32 countries. Is it okay? Okay, so what is actually the problem with the maritime industry? Well, maritime transport, we are the backbone of global trade. We transport over 90% of the world cargo, but we have been struggling with low to non-profitability already for several years. This is, of course, not sustainable. Furthermore, maritime transport, we emit about 1,000 million tons of CO2 every year, and that's about 3% of the global emission. Even though we are by far the most energy-efficient transportation method, we will be regulated over and over again if we don't improve. We are too big to avoid attention. There are significant waste elements in the value chain, and this comes from unbundling the ship's core system, insufficient information sharing, generic processes, and even outdated way of working. As said before, no one is going to ask our permission before they disrupt us. And last but not least, maritime safety of crew, cargo, and assets is jeopardized on a daily basis due to a weak safety culture. In the worst cases, even complacency and short-termism. And it drags down the attractiveness of our industry. And we, as an industry, we must recruit the best talent from the next generation. But this is also an industry with a lot of potential. So let's just briefly look at some of these elements to grasp the kind of magnitude of potential we have to capture. So MacGregor own research in the container shipping segment, it shows that the annual losses from the underperforming cargo stowage system is in the 2-digit billion euro range every year. Continuing with our own research, we found out that in the Baltic Sea area on multi-purpose vessels, actually the cargo utilization rate is below 40%. So 60% of the ship's capacity is not utilized. Or shifting a little bit focus, so also different P&I clubs reports indicate that the vessel's mooring systems, they're not designed for active sea duty. 1 to 2% of the vessels lose their anchor every year. Would we accept that on our car? 1 to 2% of the cars lose their tire on the highway every year? No one would. So, but it's not just about technology, of course. It's also about potential from underperforming processes. So, shippingefficiency.org, they released a very interesting study. It's about more than a year ago now. They looked especially on the so-called eco-ship, energy-efficient designs. And they studied thousands of vessels, but they couldn't find any proof that these so-called eco-ships gained any higher charter rate for their owners than the average vessels. So they looked further. Are these vessels then operated in a different way? And the same amount of vessels being studied again, average speed changes, etc. But again, there's no proof that the eco-ships are operated in any different way, either missing processes or generic processes. So value is not captured or it's given away. Coming back again to multi-purpose vessel and a global aspect, but we even found cases in our research when it took up to 3 years for a multi-purpose vessel after shipyard delivery before it started to perform on an acceptable level. The 3-year break-in period for a vessel, that's a quite hard hit to any business case. And in a totally different segment, we also did a MacGregor long-term study in the PCTC logistics segment. And on a European perspective, for a +1 year test, even though compensated for local differences in cargo, we found out that the performance gap between the best and the worst port for turning around and loading a PCT vessel was over 500%. Humans, processes, and habits. So how could we capture this value? How to become a little bit smarter at the sea? Well, this is the MacGregor way. What we say, we need to focus on the life cycle earning potential of the vessel. And it's not only about the capex. It means all of you have to identify your key stakeholders in an early phase, involve them in your project for collaboration before any critical design decision is made that limits the life cycle earning potential. It's also about building the vessels again around the intended purpose, around the cargo. Let's put the cargo back in the center. Because it's not about the vessel, it's about the cargo. We are doing marine logistics. We are transporting goods for the end customers. But having said that, we also must have a holistic system approach. It's no longer enough to optimize components. You need to optimize the systems. It's not enough to have the highest capacity on paper in theory. You need to have the highest cargo capacity in reality with the best cargo density, with realistic sea condition and realistic cargo profile. No one is transporting 14-ton homogeneous containers from the Far East to Europe. That doesn't exist. But looking ahead, there's as well a need for a mind shift change. We have touched this before today. We need to also enhance the spectrum of where we innovate. Because honestly, innovation doesn't at all guarantee any impact. And innovation cannot only be driven by internal ideas or new technology available. They should be driven by clearly defined problem. So we need to start collecting the problems as well, not only the ideas. And we must start to value a good problem, perhaps even more than the great idea. But knowing the problem, let's not forget it's not only about solving these with new equipment or products. We must as well enhance and appreciate innovation in processes and services. You need to master all the elements to make the impact over the life cycle. So, last but not least, I'd like to share with you some practical examples then. How could these solutions look like? These are some of MacGregor examples. So we have, as a case, we have invented something in MacGregor. It's a concept. We call it a container cargo boost factory. It's a methodology. It's applicable both to new and existing vessels. So core of this solution is then a bespoke software. It's designed to analyze and simulate your vessels. It means that we can dry run the container vessels several years in rotation on beforehand, applying different design concepts, variation in cargo profiles, speeds, which ports you're visiting, etc. Understanding the impact of over life cycle on every small design decision. And it's an end-to-end system design. It's not only about selling equipment to a ship owner. It includes process, alignment, innovation, training, and staying with the customer, monitoring that you get the impact, that the whole organization and your stakeholders are understanding how to take best use of the new asset. Zooming out a little bit, break bulk segment. We have made a proof of concept still very conceptual here for smarter stowage planning for break bulk. So what we have done is that we have taken the planning for this vessel segment from worst case whiteboard or Microsoft Excel environment into applying algorithms. We did in 2017 a proof of concept here together with the customers. It was an actual vessel, it was the actual loading computer, it was the actual cargo available around the ports at that point of time. And in this proof of concept, we were able to get 10% or more cargo on board of this vessel. And we used a couple of minutes for that planning versus the normal full-day manual planning. So there is no ready product here. It's still being developed. But imagine the impact to your fleet, either carrying 10% more paying cargo or having less vessels for the same capacity to transport. Taking even one more step back to the fleet and port efficiency. MacGregor acquired in 2017 a cloud-based collaboration platform, which we have continued to develop, focusing on the PCTs segment. What it does is that enables you as a ship owner or operator to actually capture and analyze the data from all the stakeholders that you work with along the logistics chain. Might that be stevedoring companies, port authorities, etc. So get the facts at your fingertips. No more guessing, fact-based decision. So you can do this for performance report, improvement projects, etc. So have the transparency across your fleet. Where do you get consequential delays, etc., if you do changes in speed or so on. We did a proof of concept here as well. It was a plus 1 year pilot. It was only a small fleet, but still we identified 2-digit million US dollar waste that we could start to tackle together with that owner. So there's huge potential in this industry, and there's a lot of value to capture, and it's not necessarily that we have to wait for much more new technology. It's about working with what actually is available here. So how do we continue? Well, there are going to be different ways, but I think the one common denominator is no one can do this alone. We need to collaborate a little bit more. So next step for us, I think, let's co-create this better future. Thank you.